Have you ever found yourself sitting in your favorite chair, reading the morning paper or watching the birds out the window, and suddenly wondering, why does no one talk honestly about men's health after 60? I'm not talking about the aches and pains we all compare at the coffee shop or those little jokes about growing older, not up. I mean the stuff that really matters, like our ability to feel alive, strong, and connected. For many men, that quiet question becomes a heavy concern. Why isn't my body responding the way it used to? And for some, it shows up in a place that's tough to talk about, the bedroom. Now, I want to take you back to a conversation I had just a few months ago with a patient I'll call Jim. Jim is 67, retired, and married to his high school sweetheart. He's the sort of guy who still opens doors for his wife, always tips the waitress a little extra, and would give you the shirt off his back. But Jim came to my office with a worry he couldn't shake. He was embarrassed. He said, "Doc, I'm eating right, walking every day, doing all the things they say I should, but things just aren't working downstairs." He looked away, his voice barely above a whisper. I could feel his discomfort and his frustration. This is the kind of honesty that I wish more men could have with their doctors and with themselves. Because, like Jim, so many of us follow the advice we hear about diet and exercise. We try to do the right things, hoping to protect not just our hearts or waistlines, but that vital spark that keeps us feeling like ourselves. That's exactly why I felt compelled to make today's video. Urologist warns, 5 worst veggies silently destroying erections after 60. And let me say up front, I'm not here to take away your enjoyment of food, nor to make you feel guilty about a single thing. My job, and my calling, is to help you live better, longer, and with as much dignity and joy as possible. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dr. Nolan Easton. I've been a men's health specialist and practicing urologist for over 30 years, and I can promise you I've seen it all. Every question, every worry, every late-night doubt that keeps you up. You might be surprised how many men, just like Jim, come to see me thinking their problems are unique or that their best days are behind them. But I want to reassure you, there are real answers, and often, the solutions are much simpler than we've been led to believe. Now, you might be asking yourself, what do vegetables have to do with this? We all grew up hearing that veggies are good for us, that they're the secret to lasting health. And for the most part, that's true. But as with anything, there's more to the story, especially as we age. Our bodies change, our hormones shift, and even the foods we thought were helping us can quietly start to work against us. I want you to think of this video not as a list of things to avoid, but as a gentle guide. One that helps you make choices that serve your best interests, especially when it comes to your vitality as a man. So why does this matter so much? Well, for Jim, the impact of these so-called healthy foods was more than just physical. It was emotional. He told me that he felt less confident, less connected with his wife, and even started turning down her gentle invitations for intimacy, not because he didn't want to, but because he was afraid of disappointing her and himself. Can you relate to that feeling? That worry that you might let down the person you love most? That's why we're having this conversation today. I want you to imagine, just for a moment, what your days might feel like if you didn't have that nagging doubt hanging over you. If you could wake up and feel not just alive, but vibrant, ready to face the day, to share moments with your spouse or partner, and to enjoy all the things that make life rich and meaningful. The small changes we'll talk about today have the potential to give you back that confidence and connection. That's not an exaggeration. I've seen it happen for Jim, and I want it for you too. Before we get any further, let me invite you to be part of this journey with me. If you find this message helpful, or if you've ever struggled with similar issues, I'd love for you to tap the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. And please, in the comments below, let me know, yes or no, does this topic resonate with you? Do you feel like these conversations matter? I personally read every response, and your feedback shapes the kind of advice I bring to you in future videos. This isn't just about information, it's about community and support. Getting back to Jim's story, what struck me most was how hard he had worked to take care of himself. He avoided processed foods, quit smoking in his 50s, and rarely touched alcohol. His wife made colorful salads every night, loaded up with raw veggies, hoping to help them both stay healthy. But as we dug into the details, it became clear that a handful of common vegetables, foods almost everyone assumes are perfectly safe, were actually undermining his progress. They were interfering with blood flow, hormone balance, and even energy levels. For a man in his 60s or 70s, those hidden effects can make all the difference. Now, don't worry. I'm not here to turn your world upside down or to ask you to stop eating all vegetables. But there are certain veggies that, when eaten regularly by men over 60, can do more harm than good, especially if you're already noticing changes in your sexual health. The surprising part is how these foods can silently chip away at your body's ability to function, day in and day out, until suddenly, you find yourself in the same position Jim was in, wondering where things went wrong. You see, as we age, our bodies become more sensitive to the natural compounds found in some foods. What worked fine in our 30s and 40s can suddenly start causing trouble. Some vegetables are high in substances that interfere with blood circulation or contribute to inflammation, which is the enemy of good erections. Others can affect testosterone levels or block the absorption of nutrients needed for healthy sexual function. And all of this can happen quietly, with no warning signs, until you start to notice those changes in the bedroom. Let me reassure you. There is hope, and there are simple steps you can take. When Jim and I worked together to adjust his diet, he was amazed by how quickly he started to notice changes, not just in the bedroom, but in his mood, his sleep, even his energy during the day. His wife noticed too. She told me, with a laugh, that he seemed 10 years younger and was cracking jokes again at breakfast. That's the power of understanding your body and making small, targeted changes. I know this isn't always an easy topic to discuss. For generations, men were taught to tough it out, to ignore their worries or to see problems like this as just a part of getting older. But I'm here to tell you, feeling alive, connected, and strong is your birthright, no matter your age. There's no shame in wanting to feel good and to share intimacy with your partner. In fact, it's one of the most important ways we stay close, happy, and fulfilled. So let's keep this conversation going. I'll be guiding you step by step through the specific vegetables to watch out for and, more importantly, what you can do instead. And I promise, everything I share comes from real experience, both mine, as a urologist, and from men like Jim, who found their way back to a vibrant, joyful life. Remember, the first step is simply being open to learning. That's what you're doing right now. If you've made it this far, I want to thank you for your courage and your willingness to care for yourself. And don't forget, your feedback means everything to me. Drop a yes or no in the comments, like, and subscribe so we can reach more men who need this kind of honest, practical advice. Together, we can make these years some of the best of our lives. Let's continue this journey and keep building the life you deserve, one conversation at a time. When Jim and I sat together in my office, we started to untangle what was really happening in his daily routine. Like so many men, Jim genuinely believed that if it came from the produce aisle, it was automatically good for him. He filled his plate with greens and veggies at every meal, proud of leaving behind the days of heavy meats and fried foods. But here's where things get tricky after 60. The truth is, not all vegetables treat your body the same way, especially when it comes to men's health, circulation, and that vital part of our life as partners, sexual function. Let's walk through what Jim and I discovered, and maybe you'll recognize some of these patterns in your own life. Jim's daily salad, he told me, was a rainbow: crisp bell peppers, spinach, kale, eggplant, and even soy-based veggie snacks his daughter recommended. These foods sound wholesome, right? That's what Jim thought too. But after 3 decades as a urologist, I can tell you that some vegetables have hidden properties that quietly interfere with how well blood moves through your body and how your hormones operate. If you've noticed changes in your stamina, mood, or intimacy, you might want to consider what's really on your plate. Jim mentioned that he was waking up more tired, feeling a little sluggish, and, most importantly, struggling to perform in ways that used to come naturally. What surprised him, and might surprise you, is that the culprit often hides in foods we think of as healthy. For men over 60, this is more than just a nuisance. It's a sign that our bodies need a different kind of care and attention. Some of the worst offenders for erections and overall men's health after 60 are vegetables that disrupt blood flow or throw our hormones off balance. Your body's ability to respond is directly linked to these subtle changes, and the foods you eat every day might be the key. It was a revelation to Jim when I explained that vegetables in the nightshade family, like eggplant and bell peppers, can sometimes aggravate inflammation in sensitive men, especially those who already have arthritis or blood pressure issues. This inflammation doesn't just make your joints ache, it can interfere with blood vessels' ability to relax and expand, which is absolutely essential for strong, healthy erections. Think of it this way. If your garden hose is kinked, you're not going to get a good flow, no matter how much water you pump through it. The same thing happens in our bodies when inflammation takes hold. Now, I'm not here to tell you to never touch a bell pepper again. But being aware of how your body reacts, and being willing to experiment with small changes, can open doors you thought were closed forever. For Jim, cutting back on nightshade vegetables for a few weeks made a noticeable difference. He said he had more energy, slept better, and, most importantly, started to regain confidence in the bedroom. That smile on his face told me everything I needed to know. Another surprise was spinach and kale. These leafy greens are superstars in many diets, and they absolutely have their place. But they also contain high levels of oxalates, compounds that, in excess, can block the absorption of vital minerals like magnesium and zinc. Why does that matter? Because those minerals are directly linked to testosterone production and blood flow, both crucial for a healthy sex life. When your diet is overloaded with high oxalate greens, you may feel drained, less interested in intimacy, or just not quite yourself. I've seen this pattern with dozens of men over the years, and small adjustments can create a world of difference. Jim's story is one I hear again and again. He was eating right, but missing out on the nutrients his body needed to keep his hormones balanced. Once we switched up his greens, trading out some spinach and kale for arugula, romaine, and even simple lettuce, he noticed the changes. He felt lighter, his mind was sharper, and he even started joking with his wife about being a new man. That's the kind of transformation that can happen with a little guidance. And then there are those veggie-based snacks that have become so popular, soy-based crackers, meat alternatives, and the like. These can be tricky, especially for men over 60. Soy contains phytoestrogens, which, in large amounts, can actually suppress testosterone and throw off your natural hormone balance. This doesn't mean you need to fear the occasional tofu stir-fry, but if you're munching on soy snacks every day, it might be time to rethink. For Jim, we cut back on those snacks and replaced them with nuts and seeds that support his body's natural testosterone production. He didn't feel deprived. In fact, he told me he looked forward to his evening snacks more than ever. If you're sitting there thinking, is it really possible that these common veggies are causing so much trouble? I get it. I would have thought the same thing years ago. But after decades in men's health, and hearing the real-life stories of men like Jim, I know that these details matter. They're the small hinges that swing open big doors in your life. And that's why I'm so passionate about sharing this information with you today. Now, before we go any further, I want to remind you, if this conversation is hitting home, if you're starting to see yourself in Jim's story, do me a favor. Tap the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss out on future videos. And don't forget, leave a simple yes or no in the comments if you've ever wondered about your own diet's impact on your vitality. I do read every comment, and your stories help me bring the best, most helpful advice in every new video. Back to Jim. After just a few weeks of tweaking his vegetable choices, he came back to my office looking like a different man. He told me he was waking up earlier, eager to get moving, and that his wife seemed happier, too. But the real gift, he said, was feeling like myself again, not just physically, but emotionally. He started going for longer walks, invited his wife out for dinner, and even signed up for a cooking class at the local community center. He rediscovered a spark, and that made all the difference. That's what I want for you. I want you to realize that your best years aren't behind you. With a little bit of knowledge and the courage to make a few changes, you can regain that confidence and connection that makes life so meaningful. I see it every day in my practice, and I believe it for every man watching this video. If you're making changes already, or if you have questions about which foods to keep and which to reconsider, please share your thoughts below. Every comment, every question, helps someone else who's struggling in silence. This isn't just about eating better, it's about living better, together. Let's keep exploring, because there's more to learn, and your journey to renewed vitality is just beginning. There's something powerful about watching someone rediscover themselves, especially when it's unexpected. That's what I witnessed with Jim, and it's why I'm so invested in having these conversations, right here, with you. After making some simple changes to his daily diet, swapping out just a handful of those silent saboteurs, Jim noticed a lift not only in his physical energy, but in his overall sense of well-being. That spark between him and his wife, which had started to dim, flickered back to life. And, as he told me with a sheepish grin, he finally felt like the man of the house again. But let's look a bit deeper at why certain vegetables, even those recommended for most people, can be troublesome as we get older, particularly for men who value their vitality. The body of a 60 or 70-year-old man is different from that of a 20-year-old. Our metabolism slows, hormone levels shift, and the way we process nutrients changes too. That's why what worked for you in the past might not work now, and why you might suddenly find yourself struggling with things you never worried about before. Some vegetables contain natural chemicals, like lectins and phytates, that, in high amounts, can actually disrupt digestion and nutrient absorption. Tomatoes, for instance, are a staple in many kitchens, but their lectin content can be a problem for sensitive individuals. If your gut is inflamed or you have trouble digesting certain foods, these substances can cause low-grade irritation that affects more than just your stomach. Over time, inflammation in the gut can travel throughout the body, affecting blood flow and, yes, even your ability to perform intimately. Jim's wife was the one who first noticed his stomach was often upset after eating certain meals. She told me, he loves his tomato salad, but he's always complaining about bloating afterwards. For years, they brushed it off, thinking it was just a part of getting older. But the truth is, when your digestion is off, your whole system suffers. Less nutrient absorption means less fuel for your body's natural hormone production, which is a direct link to libido and sexual performance. Another common culprit, especially in health-conscious households, is raw cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower. Don't get me wrong. These can be part of a healthy diet, but in large amounts or if not prepared properly, they can interfere with your thyroid function. Your thyroid helps regulate metabolism, mood, and energy. When it's not working well, you might feel tired, unmotivated, and less interested in intimacy. Jim didn't realize that his daily superfood smoothie, packed with raw broccoli, was actually making him sluggish and less focused. When we switched to lightly steaming those vegetables instead of eating them raw, he felt more balanced and energetic. Sometimes, it's not just what you eat, but how you eat it. As men age, our digestive systems become less efficient at breaking down tough plant fibers and natural toxins. Soaking, steaming, or even fermenting certain vegetables can make a big difference in how you feel after a meal. If you notice you're bloated, sluggish, or just not yourself after eating, pay attention. Your body is talking to you. Jim began making small changes, guided by his own experience and a willingness to listen to his body. He and his wife started cooking together in the evenings, preparing vegetables in gentler ways and experimenting with new flavors. This wasn't about restriction, it was about discovery. They found that meals left them feeling satisfied, energized, and closer to each other. The impact on their relationship was just as significant as the changes in Jim's health. I want to remind you, too, that it's never too late to make a positive change. Some of my most successful patients are men who spent decades following advice that didn't serve them, only to realize that a few small shifts made all the difference. That's the beauty of the human body. It can heal, adjust, and bounce back, even in our 70s and beyond. So if you're watching this and thinking, maybe it's too late for me, let me assure you, it isn't. Every step you take toward understanding your body and making choices that support your health brings you closer to the vitality you deserve. You're not alone, and you're not the only one navigating these changes. If any part of Jim's journey resonates with you, if you've noticed changes in your energy, digestion, or confidence, I encourage you to share your story in the comments below. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you'll be part of our growing community. A place where men can talk openly, support each other, and reclaim the best years of their lives. Your feedback really does make a difference, not just for you, but for everyone watching. I read every comment and use your input to shape the advice I share in future videos. Jim's transformation didn't just improve his marriage, it brought a sense of peace and self-acceptance that had been missing for years. He told me, "Doc, I finally feel like I'm not fighting my body anymore. I'm working with it." That shift, from frustration to partnership with your own body, is what I wish for every man in this community. The path to lasting vitality isn't about giving up pleasure or living on bland food. It's about learning what truly supports you at this stage of life. It's about finding confidence not just in the bedroom, but in every part of your day, in how you move, how you rest, and how you connect with those you love. Sometimes, the smallest changes, like steaming your broccoli or swapping out a few high oxalate greens, can unlock that lost energy and intimacy. As Jim discovered, it's the little adjustments, made with care, patience, and a willingness to try, that create the biggest breakthroughs. And those breakthroughs don't just transform your health. They transform your relationships, your joy, and your sense of purpose. Let's keep moving forward together, exploring how you can reclaim your vitality, step by step, with knowledge and support. Because when you take care of yourself, you give a gift to everyone who loves you. That's the message at the heart of what I do, and I'm honored to share it with you. So stay with me as we continue this journey. And remember, if you haven't yet, take a moment to like, subscribe, and comment yes or no if any of this rings true. Your engagement not only helps you, but lifts up countless others who may be struggling in silence. We're in this together, and the best is yet to come. You know, as I think back on Jim's story, and so many like his, I'm reminded that our bodies are always talking to us. Sometimes it's a quiet nudge, a bit of tiredness, a mood that's a little lower than usual, or a relationship that doesn't feel as close as it once did. Sometimes it's a more direct sign, like the changes in intimacy that Jim faced, or the simple realization that you don't have the same zest you used to. What matters isn't that these things happen, but how we choose to respond. Jim's journey wasn't about giving up foods he loved forever, or following some strict diet just for the sake of it. Instead, it was about learning to listen, to notice which vegetables left him feeling heavy or drained, and which brought him energy and lightness. It was about making adjustments, one step at a time, with the gentle support of his wife and an openness to change. That's the real gift of this stage of life, the chance to become wiser about your health and more connected with those who matter most. I want to encourage you to see this as an invitation, not a prescription. It's not about a list of forbidden foods or quick fixes, but about building a new relationship with your body, one that honors the wisdom you've gathered over the years. Jim learned to steam his cruciferous veggies, to swap out high oxalate greens for lighter ones, and to treat soy-based snacks as an occasional treat rather than a daily staple. With each change, he paid attention. How did he feel afterwards? Did he sleep better? Was his mood steadier? Over time, these small insights became a map for better living. And the real transformation, the one that mattered most, wasn't just in the bedroom. Jim found himself laughing more, joining in neighborhood events, and reaching out to old friends. He shared meals with his wife without the heaviness he used to feel, and together they explored new recipes, creating memories as they cooked side by side. Their relationship deepened, and that quiet sense of shame and frustration gave way to a renewed sense of partnership. He told me once, with a twinkle in his eye, "Doc, it's not about being young again. It's about feeling like myself, with all the good years ahead." This is the part one love most about working with men at this stage of life. I see firsthand that it's never too late to reclaim that spark. Whether it's adjusting your meals, talking openly with your loved ones, or just giving yourself permission to make changes, the benefits ripple out far beyond your own health. They touch your partner, your family, and even your community. When you feel better, everyone around you feels it, too. And remember, you're not alone in this. I've spent over 30 years working with men just like you, each with their own story, each facing their own challenges. If Jim's story reminds you of yourself or someone you love, I want you to know that I'm here for you. That's why I read every comment, why I encourage you to like, subscribe, and tap the bell, because your feedback shapes this channel, and together, we build a place where honesty and hope are always welcome. If you're watching right now and something in this message strikes a chord, let me know in the comments. Just a simple yes or no, and maybe a word or two about your own experience. It's not just for me, it's for the next man who stumbles on this video, wondering if he's alone. Your voice could be the encouragement he needs to take the first step toward feeling better. I want to circle back to something important. Your body is unique, and what works for one man may not work for another. That's why I always encourage an experimental approach, done gently and with care. If you're noticing changes in your energy, your mood, or your relationship, start by observing what's on your plate. Try switching up your greens, cook your cruciferous veggies, and keep an eye on how soy and nightshades affect you. Give it a few weeks, listen to your body, and don't be afraid to reach out for support if you need it. Jim's story is proof that small, mindful changes can yield big rewards. He didn't have to become a nutrition expert or overhaul his life overnight. He just had to stay curious, open, and willing to adjust. His courage paid off, not only in renewed intimacy with his wife, but in greater confidence, more energy, and a deeper enjoyment of life. I see this time and again with men who take these steps. The improvements can be subtle at first, but they build. Before you know it, you're waking up with a little more energy, feeling more interested in the world around you, and rediscovering pleasures you thought had faded. So, as we close out this conversation, I want you to hold on to the idea that your health is not set in stone. It's a living, breathing part of your story, and it can change at any age. The choices you make today are investments in the days, months, and years ahead. And as Jim learned, those choices can bring new light to every corner of your life. Let's keep this community strong and supportive. If you haven't already, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and tap the bell icon so you'll always have access to honest, practical guidance for men's health after 60. And remember, leave a yes or no in the comments if Jim's journey or any part of this message speaks to you. I do read each one, and your insights help me help others. Thank you for trusting me, for sharing your stories, and for taking steps, big and small, toward better health and happiness. As always, I'm honored to be part of your journey. Keep taking care of yourself and each other, and remember, it's never too late to reclaim your vitality and joy. Here's to you, to Jim, and to all the men embracing these years with courage, curiosity, and hope.